Lewis wants to know, does Russo deserve to be in the Hall of Fame?
I don't go there. First of all, deserve based on whose opinion and why. I mean, we all have them, and every one of them is valid. So I hope he does. I hope he gets it. Hopefully, it'll make him feel better about his time in wrestling. I know I've never heard him say it, but I've heard other people say he said it. So it doesn't mean it's true at all, but that he has a pretty bad taste in his mouth about wrestling, which is really unfortunate. It's however he feels misunderstood or mischaracterized or judged or whatever, he still had a pretty good run. He got to do some pretty fun shit. He got to do things that most people don't get a chance to do, and he probably made more money than he's ever made in his life. So I understand it didn't go the way you want. Trust me, I know that. But hanging on to being miserable about it is just making it worse. So maybe that little nod from WWE will make him feel better about life.
Lewis has a follow-up and says, Eric, if the WWE asked you to induct Russo and Cornette in the Hall of Fame, would you do it? And how much would they have to pay you to do it?
I wouldn't do Russo because I couldn't do it, honestly. I just couldn't. And it's got nothing to do with money. I just couldn't do it for any realistic amount of money. Now, if there's like 7 figures involved, I can be an active motherfucker. And I could be believable. Worth every penny. But barring something absolutely absurd as that, I wouldn't do it. Cornette, I think would be fun. I think that it's never going to happen, right? So let's be real about that from the get-go. It's never going to happen. But if it did, damn, that could be fun. Be entertaining as hell. But
King of Games,
that what I do for free.
King of Games wants to know, if Vince asked you to be a part of a new promotion, would you be interested? What role would you see yourself in? Would you be creative or a GM?
No, I've come to realize over the last, really since 2019. When I stepped foot in the water again, and the way it worked out, it is what it is. I was given an opportunity. I didn't capitalize on it. No harm, no foul. Still have a lot of respect for what Vince accomplished professionally. Still have a lot of friends that work there. I have nothing but a great taste or feeling and all that about WWE, regardless of how it happened. But I've had a time to really think a lot about that. I still think about it from time to time as it applies to choices that I'm making now. I go back to, what was my motivation? Why did I take that job? A lot of the answer is pretty obvious, right? It was financial. But it was more than that. It was much more than that. And it was an opportunity to kind of get back to something that I felt a real strong connection to. And there was a lot of money. So that was the motivation. The red flags I didn't pick up on because I was so excited. A, it was a lot of money. And B, I was really excited about getting back to something that I knew I could sink my teeth into 24/7, kind of immerse myself in and enjoy. When I got there, things were so much different than I thought they would be because I didn't ask the right questions when I was interviewing with Vince. Because actually it didn't matter. I would have taken the job anyway. Honest truth. I was so excited and the opportunity was so good. The timing was so right that it didn't really matter how we would have answered the question. I would have taken the job anyway. Straight up fact. What I wished I would have done in retrospect, even though I'm grateful for that opportunity, is ask more questions. I never knew what my job was. I knew what the official title was. Had no idea what the job was. Had no idea what Vince was looking for. Forget about Eric Bischoff in that role with that title. The title was executive director. theoretically, the conversation going into it was essentially a showrunner in the TV industry. An executive director at that time would have been considered a showrunner. In fact, I made that point when Vince was trying to explain it to me. I used the term showrunner specifically to make sure I understood the job as he explained it. And I was kind of excited about that because I knew what that meant in a general sense, and being basically overseeing every aspect of the show, starting with creative. When I got there, it was apparent to me that was not my job. I was a part of that process in some odd way, because there was an official title, but there was no real there in terms of day-to-day, things I was attempting to do, other than, at that time, because of the premiere on Fox, we were splitting the teams. We were splitting the talent. We were splitting the writing teams, and we never knew. Paul Heyman had Raw. I had SmackDown. Neither one of us knew on any given week who our writers were going to be for the next 2 weeks, because they were constantly, Vince was shuffling them. Let's try it this way. No, it's going to be every week we'd have a meeting. Okay, what are we doing? How we split up the writing teams? Well, this is what we talked about last week, Vince. Okay. And then we'd sit, he'd stare at it and then say, no, let's move this guy over here. Let's move this woman over here. It's like, okay, let's go do that till next week. So it was, and again, there was a lot of other things going on. My ability to transition into that culture, which is a really different culture for me. I mean, I had worked at Turner. That was a corporate environment. WWE was really more well buttoned up corporately than Turner was when I was there. Protocols, processes were more complicated, more bureaucratic. And learning those processes and the people involved in them was a little bit like drinking out of a fire hose, as they say there. So all of that was going on, but at the core of it, I realized that I made that decision and moved my wife and my dog to Connecticut and took that chunk out of my life because I made the decision based on the wrong reasons. And I realize now that there's nothing I can do in professional wrestling that's ever going to bring me fulfillment. It's just not, because I've done it and I'm proud of what I've done. And unless I could do something that could make me feel as excited as I felt back then about professional wrestling, I can't do it. So, long-winded way of saying I just don't have that desire to focus on that business any longer for Vince or anybody else. It's just, if I took a job like that, I'd be taking it for the wrong reasons and probably end up having the same results that I did in 2019. Because the real answer is I'm really just not interested enough to commit that much to that industry. As much as I respect it and I'm grateful for it, that period of my life is in the rearview mirror, and I enjoy every time I look in the rearview mirror and see it.